Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a non-traditional legal program with your host and trusted advisor, Liz Myska, your guide through the web of life's dilemmas.
Welcome to another edition of Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Liz Myska. And today I have my attorney hat on and my blind hat. I would like to welcome my guest. Would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joan McGrath. I am the Executive Director of Planned Lifetime Assistance Network of Massachusetts and Rhode Island, PLAN for short.
And for my audience, me being a lawyer, you want a plan. You want to surround yourself by trusted advisors, whether they be financial advisors or whether they be legal advisors, to help you plan as you age. And in particular, what does Plan of Massachusetts and Rhode Island specialize in?
PLAN is a professional trustee of special needs trusts. Our largest offering is a pool trust, and we've been doing it for 50 years.
Wow. So let's just unpack this a little bit because I know people cringe when they hear the word trust. I know they cringe when they hear the word lawyer. I know they cringe when they hear the word estate because they think, I don't have any money, so I'm not going to have one of those. I'm not going to have an estate. But you're talking about while individuals are alive, and by and large, the individuals that you're concentrating on are disabled or differently abled, as I like to say. And so the special need is that they need assistance, and assistance is expensive.
It can be, yes.
Yes.
Yes, and people that have disabilities, I think it's 28% more in cost to just live their daily lives than someone that is not disabled. The people that have disabilities, more than often than not, should, if not already on some form of public benefit, such as SSI or Medicaid, to help them pay for the services that they need just to live their lives.
Right.
In order to be on some of these public benefits, you can't show more than $2,000 in Massachusetts of assets, and you can't show more than $4,000 in Rhode Island. So that's well below the poverty line.
Right.
So to have a quality life, the best thing to do is to have a trust. If you're able to have a trust, there's different ways of funding a trust. You can, if the money is yours, if you were in an accident or medical malpractice, something happened where you now are in possession of money. In order to keep your public benefits, you need to put that into a trust, and it's called a first-party trust. If you have a child or your parent, so a grandparent of a child, or even siblings or whoever, they want to leave money to your child or to you, they need to put that into what's called a third-party trust. If you put those into a third-party trust, there is no Medicaid payback, and you can continue to be on benefits and make use of that trust. So there are rules it's governed by the Social Security Administration that allow you to use the trust funds for your sole benefit without impacting benefits. And that's what we do. We're the trustee, and we make sure that the trust follows the rules.
So Joan, you sound very, very knowledgeable. How did you come to be the executive director of PLAN? What was your path?
Someone just asked me that question yesterday. I've been with PLAN for 13 years, or close to 13 years. I started out graduating from college and going into public accounting, and when I finished public accounting, that was a rough stint. I started my own practice, and I took on different clients and provided fractional CFO services, financial services.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's that?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So one of my clients was PLAN, and I started there in 2009. Actually, it was February 4th, 2009. So I have been with them ever since. And over the years, I have advanced, and I became an employee, and I more and more hours until I was the director of finance, and then I was promoted to executive director about 16 or 18 months ago. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And also, you sound as though you're very familiar with trust language because of your background, but also you're very familiar with numbers. And I know as a lawyer, I'm very familiar with words. And words are my forte, not numbers. So how easy or how difficult is it to convince a family of that they should consider plan? And what kind of tactics or do you deploy to convince people that this is worthy of their inspection?
So we've been around for 50 years. We were incorporated in 1971, and no one's ever heard of us before. Mm-hmm. So we have that's since I've taken over, that's what I'm trying to do, get the word out to educate people that they have options. A lot of people don't realize that they can open a trust. One of the things that most of our clients, I should say, come from attorney referrals, and 70% of them are over 65. Because if you're over 65, your only option for a disability or a special needs trust is a trust that's called a pooled trust. And a pooled trust must have a nonprofit as the trustee. So 90% of our folks come to us from attorneys, and 70% of them are over 65. If they're under 65, that's the group that I'm trying to get the word out to. So you would need a special needs trust, as I mentioned, to protect your benefits. But I think that what I'm trying to do is get the word out by reaching out to other organizations. So during COVID, a lot of nonprofits, I should say, weren't able to sustain themselves. They needed help. They weren't getting the donations that they got in the past. So part of our mission was to provide some support to those nonprofits. Special Olympics, Best Buddies, Carroll Center for the Blind, the Northeast Arc. Our effort is to get out there and reach people under 65 that why you need a trust, and that you can get a trust. So a lot of families don't have a lot of money. They have no idea how they would ever fund a trust. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to that tell me that they have to continue working forever. They feel like they can never retire, and they cannot die because they don't know how they're going to take care of their children.
Right.
So we work with them to come up with different ways to fund those trusts, to give them peace of mind. So what we have for people is a future funded trust. So you join the plan, and you pay $500, and that's it. You've now joined the plan, and now you want to put into place either life insurance. So you have a designated beneficiary being the third party special needs trust for your loved one. Or you can have your retirement account. So when you pass away, that retirement account then goes to fund the trust.
Funds the trust.
So it's just getting the word out.
Right.
I can't tell you how many people I've gone to events where they have no idea what they're going to do, and they can't rest. And they think, I'm going to leave it to a family member to be the trustee. And as they age, that hopeful trustee also ages.
Right.
And they get to the point where they can't handle it, or they don't want to do it. They don't feel they can do a good job because they're older themselves. So, or they die, or there's just any number of things that can happen. So, so we're there. We're that fallback. And to join plan, there's no minimum. Where if you were to put this with a bank or a financial planner, many of those organizations have minimums, $1 million, $1.5 million. We don't have minimums. So we do recommend that it not be less than $10,000 because you don't want it to be eaten up by fees. But, if you're going to pass away, or you're going to, upon your death, you sell the house, it goes into the trust, that's 500,000, 600,000. There's no limit. It could be 80,000, it could be 10,000. It's whatever you have to help that person with their life.
I'm thinking that my audience probably think, well, I don't have that kind of money, but you're giving assurances here that it costs nothing to talk.
Absolutely.
And it costs nothing to
people.
explore it.
Yeah.
Because again, having practiced law for umpty million years, people are afraid.
Yeah.
People are afraid. They're afraid to admit what they don't know.
Right.
And again, they make excuses like why. And it takes the crises that are inevitable.
Yes.
That, again, I always say to people, you're likely to become infirm during your lifetime or have a family member become infirm. You're definitely going to die.
Yeah.
So you need to address these things. Address these things meaning at least stick your toe in the water.
Right.
And if you don't, if you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, that's when you consult with the experts. That's when you call plan. That's
Right.
when you call Liz Myska and say, I need help. I was just having an email exchange this morning with a geriatric care manager, and she has an elderly client that has a lot of money. So he's not in the same category in the sense of governmental benefits, receipt of governmental benefits for himself or his partner. But my nurse practitioner friend wanted me to convince this gentleman that he needs to seek advice, that you can't do it yourself,
Right.
and you can look online, but usually you are so bamboozled by the jargon and the terminology but don't let that be the showstopper. Allow that to be the entry point. So that's why I'm very I'm dazzled by the outreach to Best Buddies or Special Olympics or the Carroll Center, because in my experience with speaking to particularly parents of visually impaired children, again, the children are going to age. Your child is not always going to be 5 or
Right.
12 or 18 or 30.
Yeah.
and you yourself are not going to be 30, 50, 80 forever. And so it's almost, to my way of thinking, and pardon me for saying this, but as a lawyer, it's irresponsible to just say, well, I'm just going to close the door on it and just hope for the best.
Right.
Because that is irresponsible. That it's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
It's
Exactly.
inevitable. So why not avail yourself?
And you're 100% right. Because we're a 501c3 nonprofit, it's easier to call us. We don't charge you. You can call as many times and ask any number of questions, because we do understand this is not only you or your loved one's future, but it's your money.
Right.
And a lot of people come to this with a lot of distrust because they don't understand how the process works, and they don't want to be taken, and they
Right.
don't want to lose everything, or that that their child will not be properly taken care of.
Right.
So yeah, so call us. That's the thing. Call us, and we'll talk to you. We have social workers on staff. That's what makes us different than other organizations. We have 9 social workers on staff, and they will work with you, the beneficiary, the power of attorney, whoever, to make sure that the trust is used for the benefit of that person, used properly, that we do everything possible to make sure benefits are not impacted. That's our mission. And that the person uses the money to have a quality life, really. I mean, Medicaid or any public benefit won't pay for, I think it's glasses, dentures.
Right.
I mean,
Nothing. Right.
right.
Nothing,
So that's what a trust can pay for,
Right.
But it's not just that. It's also art therapy, physical therapy.
the big screen TV, so you can watch your football games.
Whatever it is, go on vacation.
Right.
Yeah. So as
Right.
long as it's sole benefit and it helps that person's quality of life, and it's not otherwise paid by another benefit, we can do it. Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're advocating, call, because I also find that I call it in lawyer land document envy, where people are like, well, I've got one of these, and people are like, well, I need one of those.
I need one of those.
And it's kind of like, but your circumstances are completely different.
Yeah.
So that's why availing yourself of advice,
Yes.
and also the collaboration between different disciplines, between social work, between financial advisors, between lawyers, also the medical community as well, because if it's something that, well, I'll just go ahead and tell this story. When I was getting my Master of Laws, which again, most lawyers do not have a master's. They have a Juris Doctor, which I also have. Anyway, my Master of Laws came on the heels of my sight loss because I wanted to remain viable, and this is probably applicable for people with disabilities. It's very difficult as a person with a disability to be valued economically and to be employed. That's just a matter of fact, which I am trying to change. But anyway, in the course of attaining this advanced law degree, I realized that the elderly population, the disabled population, have a lot in common. They're disenfranchised, they're demeaned, they're dislocated, and they're disempowered. And I was like, well, who better than me? I'm a lawyer. Yeah. Who better than me to again learn and impart information, realizing that people are people, and there's likely going to they're likely going to be wary of, you're selling something to me, me. But again, a lawyer is a counselor, a lawyer is an advisor, and I pride myself on identifying options for people, and again, in order to identify options for people, then I need to probe your situation, and again, I find people, they're very private because they're like, I'm not going to reveal that to you. You just give me advice, and I can't, I can't be effective if you're not going to tell me, like, look, I've only got 20 grand in the bank, and because again, there's that fear factor of, you're going to take all my money, and I'm going to be left with nothing. Yeah. But when in the course of getting this master's, one of the things we had to do was plan for a fictitious client. And my fictitious client had very, very wealthy parents. And she herself, she was a young woman. She was in her 30s. She was married. She was a skier. And in the scenario, she and her husband go skiing in Vail, and he's killed in an avalanche, and she suffers a spinal cord injury. And what I, as a lawyer, had to do was plan for her while she was alive, and plan for her, memorialize in writing who she wanted to be her spokespersons in powers of attorney, in a will, et cetera, et cetera. But I was very curious about, again, she wanted to go back to work. She wanted to, she was a librarian. She wanted to remain viable, but she couldn't do any of this on her own. So I had to, I did this, I contacted physician friends of mine. I contacted Needs, which is an organization that provides service animals, because I thought, well, maybe we could explore this. And that was a cost, because she wasn't blind. Blind people, there are great endowments for service animals, for guide dogs, but not for people with mobility issues or spinal cord injuries or whatever. So I took advantage of this opportunity to plan for a fictitious client, and in the process learned all kinds of outlets that I never would have learned before. And that's what I'm suggesting, that my audience keep that mindset and plan and allow your team with the social workers and the various tributaries that branch out to assist people when they think there's no options for me, or it's going to be too expensive.
It's definitely worth a call. When someone reaches out to us and they start explaining their situation, and we do ask the same questions, and we refer them usually to at least 3 attorneys in their area. You would be one of them if it was in this area. They would reach out to you and seek assistance. and we give names of people that we know understand special needs trusts. I mean, you could reach out to your any kind of a real estate attorney, but you want someone who knows special needs. So that's what we give names of referral sources, because working with a special needs trust is just one of the options that are open to you. And for some, it may not be the best option. We think it's always a great option, even if it's something that's future funded, because it protects those benefits, or even if you're not on benefits now, you may need them in the future. So I agree with you. There's a lot of planning that needs to happen.
Well, and education and consultation. When I graduated with my Master of Laws in 2013, again, my practice has always been very hands-on. I want the client. I know the clients are wary and reluctant and need to be convinced. So I always give people the ability to ask the questions, and again, and not to trample on plan. But what I do is people usually call me, and I'm sure this happens with plan. People call me and say, "Do you do this? Like, do you do trust?"
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yes. And then the next question is, how much do you charge? And it's like, we're not going to go there yet.
Yeah.
Come in.
Yeah.
We will talk. I give a free 1-hour consultation. And usually people come with their documents, with their dossier of documents, and they thump it on the desk, and I scoop it aside, and I'm like, so tell me why you're here.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, I need this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, tell me your story. And then in the process of telling the story, again, we lawyers are trained to spot issues. We can definitely craft documents. There's no question. That's what we went to school for. But we spot issues of, oh, you're leaving out, you've got 3 children, but you've only mentioned 2. Oh, well, I have to disinherit the disabled one because otherwise I'm going to throw him or her off the benefits. Like,
Yeah. That's where you need a special needs trust. Yep.
Right, exactly. So I don't give an answer. I don't say, you need this, you need that. They go away. I write them a letter and I say, if you want to engage me, here are my recommendations. And again, at any time you can say, Liz, you're all wet. I'm not going to take your advice. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. That's fine. But at least we've had the encounter. At least we've had the exposure of you probing. And again, I feel the one-on-one is really, really important, because it's easy to just go on a website and say, yeah, no, not for me. But when you're in front of someone and you're like, I'm sizing this person up, I think they really can help me. And again, there's a rapport. Not all my clients and I sometimes say, I'm not the one to help you. Yeah. And they may say, you're not the one to help me. Okay, no hard feelings. But at least we've started the dance, as opposed to staying on the sidelines, quaking in fear, which again, the way that you're describing it is very, very familiar to me. That's how people, they're afraid, and then they don't make a move. They're paralyzed. Right,
they're paralyzed. The fear takes over, and they know they need to do something. So we're hoping through the webinars that we do at different disability organizations. We just recently did something with the financial planners of Massachusetts to get the word out, so people can say, hey, I know somebody, or this is my situation. Let me call these people. We're not intimidating. We're just going to talk to you about where you are, what your options are, and move forward. And there is no requirement to continue on. So
that's great. So you had started out, and we're almost at the tail end of the show, but you had said that you had been interviewed on WBZ. Was it radio or?
I was yes, it was on radio with WBZ, and we just actually are working on a podcast to discuss the same thing about setting up special needs trusts.
Wow.
So it's I'm just trying really hard to get the message out there to people that they do have options, and plan is a place to start. So
And again, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, so this is,
Yeah.
so you don't have an excuse.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a professional trustee, we do all the annual accountings, we do the tax returns, we do the social service piece, coordinate all services for the person, and investments. I mean, last year we had a return of 7%, and that was pretty good. So, yeah, we can't guarantee that kind of return every year, but we strive to cover the fees so that people aren't losing anything. So, yeah, and that they. Yeah, so call us.
Yeah, I was going to say, and why don't you give the number and don't let this be, don't hide it under a bushel basket. Actually call and learn and educate yourself. What's the number, Joan?
So the phone number is 617-244-5552. There is a 188 number. I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
But the website is the easy way in. You can go into our website, planofma-ri.org, and move around the website and look at things and see what applies. And if you want to contact us, call us. There's no obligation. We don't charge. Call as many times as you want, but check the website. You should just be able to Google it. We should come up first, but we should be somewhere in that range and take a look, see if it's something that would work for you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. And audience, I strongly recommend, if you're shy about calling Plan, get in touch with the station here, and I can help you out as well. So thank you, Joan, for traveling. I know you're not from Worcester County, so thank you for traveling here today. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Plan, so appreciate it.
And check out the next Connecting the Dots.
Please note that the information provided in this show is not a substitute for consulting with an experienced local attorney and receiving counsel based on the facts and circumstances of a particular transaction. To contact Lizbeth, email her at lisbeth@elizabethlmyska.com or call her office at 508-753-7681. We're online at connectingthedots.lawyer. Executive producers, Liz Myska and Jack Peacock. Producers, John Medberry and Bill Hamilton. A production of Elizabeth L. Myska, JD, LLM, in association with Compliments.